All right, we're live, boys. Welcome to the best hour of your day, assuming your day is very, very mediocre. This is the Eric and Rodney Show with Robin, the show where we pursue fame on LinkedIn Live until we get too famous for this shit. Today's guest is a near and dear friend of our very own Rodney Steele. Rodney, would you like to introduce him?
I will. Thank you, Eric. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Guys, my guest today is Terrence Duffy, a good friend of mine. And I wanted to bring him on the show to hash it up with us about the news and tell us a little bit about what he does and to share some tips and tricks. Terrence, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First and foremost, father, husband, 5 kids. Don't know how I do it with that.
Me either.
Right now I'm on tour with Eddie Van Halen. No.
He's backstage.
I'm backstage setting up the guitars. No. So I sell HR services through professional employee organizations. So I work for a company called Prestige. But that's how I met Rodney. But so I'm in sales primarily. So that's it. I'm just happy to be here, guys.
Oh, thank
you for being here. And Robin, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm joking.
Yeah.
Thank you, Terrence.
Sure thing.
There's a very big collection of guitars. Is there a favorite in there?
No, it's like all the stuff you hear about kids. Like, do you have a favorite? No, you probably like one more than the other, right? but my wife's like, she came down here. She never really realized how many I have. And it's it's like, look, I'm embarrassed to say there's a rack on the floor over here with like another 10. So it's and then my 2 daughters, I have 3 daughters, 2 boys, and the girls are learning how to play. So the way I look at it, like, look, I'm not Rodney, where it's like I'm going to leave like a Bitcoin empire or something like that. But this way, it's like pick a guitar, and if I like you, I'll give you one.
and I can vouch for that because Terrence and I had lunch one day, and he gave me a Paul Reed Smith guitar. Yeah, honestly, it was incredible, and I still don't know how to play it, but it is beautiful, and I show it off constantly. More people have touched that guitar when they come over than probably anyone will ever touch anything.
Yeah.
This is probably a dumb question, but you were in bands. You're in a band. What's your
not anymore? So like when I was a lot younger, all right. So a lot younger, couldn't afford guitars, right? So it's like whatever left over, and 2 older brothers, right?
Yeah.
Played in school and church and everything, and then we moved around a lot, so never formal, right? Just like new chords and everything. I could play Zeppelin. I remember playing like Zeppelin rock and roll for like 3rd grade Catholic school talent competition, right? And one fun claim to fame, right? So I don't know if you guys remember Ricky Schroeder. Ricky Schroeder, right?
We know Rick.
So when I was in 8th grade, I went to Western Junior High in Greenwich, Connecticut. We moved there for a year, and he was in our band. I was in a band with Ricky Schroeder, right? And we played Just What I Needed with the cars for the talent show and that.
Wow.
Now, but fast forward, right? So it's like, it's like golf. You just don't pick it up, right? For a lot of years. And then, you start making a couple of shekels. And it's like, oh, okay, let me buy this one. And then they have what they call GAS, like guitar acquisition syndrome, which I deny, but it's like, it's like I have too many guitarists, said never any guitarist, right? So that's it,
right. That's true.
And now it's more like I'm like just like listening to music, and if you ask me how to play Stairway, couldn't do it anymore. Too old.
Even with all those guitars. Do you think you could get Ricky Schroeder on this show?
I haven't talked to him, 30, 50, 40
years. Here's what you tell him. You say, Rick, listen, we're starting up the old band.
We're getting the band back together.
You got a gig at the Catholic school.
Jake and Elwood. Jake and Elwood. We're getting the band back together.
Eric, they got a gig on LinkedIn Live.
But they can do our theme song. We don't have a theme song.
We don't have a theme song. You know what's funny is that Eric said the other day, it was really funny. He said, we're building this plane as we're flying. We literally are. And I used to say all the time, right? I would be like, and I said this to Terrence, probably all of you. I think they should start a show about a startup. This is a show about a startup.
Yeah.
LinkedIn Live show.
Yeah. It's very meta. It is. All right. So our first order of business every day is to talk about the news because we're qualified and people care about our opinions. So Robin he's compiled some stories. What do you got there, Robin?
Okay, we'll talk about some of the boring stuff first. I know Rodney has a topic that he really wants to discuss. Okay, so large parts of the U.S. workforce are now having to rely on withdrawing their 401k. Very unfortunate, but they're doing so because they need to make ends meet. And in the past year, about 3% of account holders alone have already had to withdraw their 401k funds. We actually don't have 401k in the Philippines, which is what makes us a third world country. But what do you guys think? Is this a foreshadowing of something?
Yes, yeah, it's a fucking disaster. We're gonna have so there's gonna be so many old sick people who are also poor. We're gonna send them to the Philippines.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible, but I think it's what's happening in the world. Sorry, guys. I think it's what's happening in the world. I think inflation is making people dip into their savings, and I like a lot of times people go into a 401k, right? Because their company offers it, and maybe they match, which is smart, right? And you do it, and then it's like, I need money. I knew a guy one time that had to borrow from his 401k to pay off his gambling debts. And I mean, and for lack of a better terms, I mean, this guy had like almost a PhD in finance. So I mean, you know,
love gambling. So what do you do in Robin? No for 401ks? What happens? You get money from the government?
Well, the rich people are fine. The poor people just remain poor and die early. It's sad, but
so like America.
Yeah,
like America. Okay. It sounds like.
Well, just a little bit worse in America, but yeah.
Yeah, Robin, the poor people here don't have 401ks either. So it also makes us a third world country.
It's not a requirement unless you're like with a company that requires a 401k.
I don't think is it a requirement? I don't know. Terrence, you would know that, but
it's starting to get mandated in certain states. So some states mandate that a company offer something. The big problem I see with all this is like 401k, whatever. It's like the bigger numbers, which have been around for a long while, is like the majority of people that I think it's something like 80% of Americans have less than $10,000 in a bank account.
Right.
Forget retirement, right? They have like less than that. And what's crazy right now is we're still operating, and I feel guilty with the guitars here, but we're still operating like there is no problem going on. Right. Salaries aren't going up, but like eggs, I went to buy food and eggs, and with kids, it's like, I usually tell people, like in general, like, hey, you give me a $10,000 raise, right? Government's going to take like 7,000, like 3,000. I'm going to keep 7. That's about 150, 140 bucks a week. I blow through that in one trip to Walmart, buying nothing.
Yeah,
right?
that's
eggs.
It's on eggs, just on eggs.
It's just like eggs. And it's just crazy, right? What it is. So it's, I can understand. Like, it feels like we're living in a world right now where they don't want you to own things. They want to, they don't want you to own things. They want you like control and everything. I don't know.
I didn't know the statistic about the $10,000, but I have heard that there's a large amount of Americans who can't even come up with $600 in an emergency. So if that's the case, like this is a canary in the coal mine situation where the rich people with 401ks are withdrawing. So that tells you a lot about what's happening underneath that, which is absolutely horrifying. If you can't come up with $600 now, life doesn't get easier as you get older and require, more medical care, whatever. So
agreed,
baby.
Agreed.
That's why I'm expatriating to the Philippines.
Isn't there
we're going to stay with Robin.
Yeah.
Isn't there
we're going to live with Robin
that prevents people from withdrawing their 401k?
There's a tax. What happens is, so here's what happens. Whenever you withdraw from it, you get taxed on it. Jenny's right. You get taxed on it, and I think it's pretty hefty. I don't know the exact amount. I think it's like 12% or.
Oh, you pay penalties and
penalties and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I would say, it's a last resort. I would say that in my own personal assumption of things, I would say it's probably the step before you go see the guy on the corner, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. To Jenny Winnie's point here, yes, we spend above our means. Yes. I don't know if you heard the show on Friday that you were on, Jenny Winnie, but the United States spends an extra $1 trillion every year. That's how much the government's in debt. So I don't want to hear about my credit card. You know what I'm saying? Americans spend a lot of money.
That's true.
The government does. Yep. The Pentagon does. I do. It's just a way of life.
So I feel like the American way is to spend.
Of course,
it really.
I think it's to consume and spend.
Why do you think they want us to go to college? To learn? No, to get better jobs so we have more money to spend so they can tax it so they get more money.
Yeah, that answers my question.
Capitalism, Robin, don't touch it. Stick with the dictator. It's much better. History will tell you dictatorships always work out.
Yeah. For the rich, at least. Okay, so next topic. Recent poll has shown that weddings have become much more pricey in the U.S., and the average wedding now amounts to about $30,000 US. Reason being is because there are a lot more people who feel pressured to have more luxurious weddings. They want bigger events, bigger rings, better planning companies. And with that, so bridal planning companies have actually been going bankrupt after struggling to appeal to the modern bride demand. You guys still getting married after this?
No,
I'm guessing.
Here's the thing: as expensive as weddings are, divorces are so expensive. Some people opt for murder. That's how expensive.
But hold on a second. You said they're getting more expensive, but
The bridal
the companies
companies.
planning them are having problems.
Yes.
Counting the money, or what's happening?
This is the issue I have with this story. It contradicts itself.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking, what are they having problems with? Counting the money, getting it to the bank. I could help. Call. We'll help you out.
Like logistic problems.
Yeah, so because David's Bridal, I just read in this article, went bankrupt, and that's where you buy expensive wedding dresses. I guess the TikTok thing, like they're teaching how to whatever, TikTok hacks everything. But I don't understand if that's the case, why it's getting more expensive. Shouldn't it get cheaper as demand lessens?
That's true. The other thing I was thinking though too, right, is that what if there was a hack on TikTok about how to build a TikTok? Just throwing it out there. I don't want to get off on a tangent. It doesn't make sense. The other thing I would say too is I think that one of the reasons the prices have probably gone up, just brainstorming here, is because of 2020. Because they lost so much revenue. Like, who was getting married? I got married in 2020, but
you were the one.
Most people moved their weddings.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm serious. Like a lot of people that I went to their, supposed to go to their wedding or whatnot, they would be like, it's been canceled. The place canceled it. They canceled it. Whatever it was. Right. Yeah. And they had it a year later or 2 years later or whatever it may be.
Well, I agree with you. So I think a lot of people. So we started during the whole pandemic. People were buying on home goods, right?
Yeah.
And then I think now, when people are like released from their houses, all of a sudden everyone was traveling and the wedding. So
and getting married.
Yeah, the cost for a wedding, holy cow, I can't even imagine. So luckily, I didn't pay for mine. In-laws and everything.
You have a few to pay for though, right?
Geez, I'm telling them I love you girls, but kiss me goodbye and go elope. It's okay. Daddy loves you. But
$600 in Vegas. So
it's but at the same time, it's funny. And this is the other thing I would say that what is it they say, like millennials don't own a lot, right? I don't know what the millennials, right? But the mindset is of that age range, right? It's more of like the renting culture and everything. So a lot of people aren't necessarily. There's a point where I started seeing people being kind of like, hey, we're going to buy our house together before we get married. We're going to, take that money and buy a house or take that money into this. That's kind of gone to the wayside. Now I'm just seeing people, hey, the big lavish wedding, the party, etc. What's amazing is that it's kind of like, what you were saying before is like, divorce is real. If you don't think weddings are real, get a divorce, right? And see how real your marriage was.
Speaking of divorce, Robin, did you know this, Terrence? Robin, tell him the fact. Listen to this, Terrence.
Philippines remains the only country in the world where divorce is illegal. Unfortunately,
really, it's illegal. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a Filipino priest. I've never heard that.
What do you have to ask?
I have to ask him now.
For a good reason.
Wow. Okay.
So no divorce lawyers.
Yeah.
So how they get out of it?
You have to kill him.
Real quick, funny story. I wish I remembered the name of the mega millionaire, right? So picture like a 7-year-old guy dates, marries a 25-year-old woman, right?
American dream,
right? They go to the Dominican Republic for vacation, 2 weeks, blah blah blah, right? And 20 years later, she wants a divorce, right? And it turns out they were already divorced, because when they went to that trip 20 years ago, Dominican Republic was one of the only countries that one person can go and get a divorce without the other person knowing. Apparently, this business guy got a divorce. She's been living with him for 20 years, not knowing. She had
I know
no
what my
access
next
to-
wedding's gonna be.
Like, holy.
Oh man,
I'm like, what are you doing that? Mom?
Robin's taking notes. He's searching Google.
That
Where
guy
is this
was
place
19
called?
years ahead. Yeah.
The thing that bothers me too about this article is they say like the average American wedding or something is 30 grand, but that's when you factor in like, Appalachia in Nebraska. My wedding cost me 35 grand, and that was in 2009 ish. I don't know, around that time, whatever. I can't remember, but it wasn't particularly lavish. I didn't have horses and shit. It was just a normal wedding where, you had like 100 people, but here's the thing. You have 100 people and the food costs 150, $150 a plate.
Yeah.
It's 15 grand right there.
Yeah.
Goes
Yeah,
quick,
that's
baby.
true.
So
It's bring your own food.
BYOB.
You could still get married without a wedding, right?
What's that?
That's a thing. You could still
What?
get married without a wedding.
Of course.
Yeah,
but
but
what
here's
are all
the
your
thing.
friends and family and people you're never going to speak to again? What are they going to do?
Yeah, but it's like not going to prom. You got to have one wedding, right? I mean,
Yeah.
don't you?
You got to waste money on it. I mean, it's inevitable.
Right.
Yeah.
We waste money on a lot of dumb shit.
Money's going to be spent somewhere. It's either on the wedding or right after the wedding, or it's going to
The
be spent.
divorce. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
The whole thing is a
Yeah,
wreck.
it's-
A whole goddamn thing.
I'm curious because Terrence brought it up, but in the States, is it traditional that the bride's family pays for the wedding, or is it usually traditional that the man's family pays for it?
It's the bride.
Right.
Usually.
Historically, it's a bride.
Yeah,
Okay.
but who's
It's the
going to have
same thing in the
30 grand
Philippines.
kicking around for this?
I
fucking
think we stole that from you guys. It's the same thing.
Maybe
You know
we
what?
stole it from you guys.
You probably stole it from you.
Who knows?
Possible.
Because
I'm
it's
not
the
gonna
whole
lie to you,
dowry thing, I would think. The whole
We like to
dowry.
steal things in America. I just putting it out there, right? We like to steal things. So we don't.
did away
but
with
the
the
country
dowry
does.
system, but like if when my daughter gets married, I'd much rather give their family a goat than 80 grand for a wedding.
You know, it's funny. I was watching 90 Day Fiance, one of those shows, and one of the people were getting married, and this guy had to fly. I think it might have been. It was somewhere in Asia, and he took his fiance's mom with him to pick out the cow, and she was like, "That one looks sickly." The translator was like, "That one looks sickly. I want that one." And he's like, "I don't know if I have enough." I forget what it was now. He was like, "I don't know if I have enough money," and it was like $700 or $800. And I'm just thinking, if he doesn't have $700 or $800, and then later on, the girl he was marrying was like, "He's so rich."
Yeah.
I was thinking, you might be disappointed when you get to America.
Yeah.
You're sleeping on a futon, you know what I mean? And ended up, believe it or not, they ended up living in a self-storage for a while. So I wasn't far off.
To Jenny Winnie's point, we do spend an awful lot of money. Like I listened to This American Life this morning, had nothing to do with weddings, but they just mentioned anecdotally that this chick had to go to a funeral, what it was like 100 years ago. So they had to sell the family mule to pay for the funeral trip. Like we're not that poor. Eggs are very expensive, but I don't have to sell a mule to get to a funeral yet.
Yeah.
It's coming.
The problem is that we would have to get the money to buy the mule. So that's the modern day.
Well,
challenge,
you got to
right?
marry off your daughter to get the mule.
That's right. And then you have to think to yourself, do you know, and I know a lot of people, do I know anyone that sells mules? I don't.
If you find one, get them on the show.
Who's your mule broker? Yeah, it's funny. Like I was at my doctor a while back when we were talking about something that's surgical, and she's like, "Well, who's your surgeon?" And I'm like, I don't know. I have a surgeon. Get out of here.
Random question: Is animal labor still a thing in the States?
Animal labor.
The police use dogs to sniff out drugs.
Oh yeah, the dog. Yeah, they sniff out drugs and bombs and.
Like farm working animals.
No, we have machinery. Wow, oh God, you still have animals out in the farms?
We do. Like much more than machinery too.
I'm gonna send you a lawnmower. It's gonna blow your mind.
Yeah, we have like all these huge machines and tractors and.
Yeah.
There's a big push though,
Thanks.
like with climate, a lot of, whatever your opinion on climate is, right? But like, I think was it Norway, the Netherlands? I'm not sure, right? Where they're now limiting with the farmers, right? You can only have like 2 cows in a certain plot of land because, methane gas and everything.
Yeah,
Has that hit down into the Philippines with the livestock work in the farm? So they kind of restricting you down there, and they're kind of like, whatever, not bothering.
No, we're too poor to have first.
It's a free for all in the Philippines. Anything goes. Martial's law.
Yeah. So it's never hit us here yet.
Got it.
I don't want to belabor the point about killing people to get out of divorce, but I do think it's funny. Like, if you get divorced, you're definitely fucked, right? But if you kill them, you might get away with it, which is, I think, why it's a real problem.
Well, you know what, Eric? If you're going to bottom line it, I mean, let's bottom line it. I'm a bottom line guy. You got to decide, right? Would you rather pay for a divorce lawyer or criminal defense? That's you know what I mean? I mean, no, I'm serious. That's what it is, right? If you're thinking about it logically, right?
Right, exactly.
Now, I'm not an expert on either of those, but I would say probably criminal defense is going to be more expensive. But I'm just guessing. I don't know. Well, didn't OJ spend like $20 million or something? Or was it some ridiculous amount of money? Maybe I'm exaggerating, but
can I get a public defender for free?
Yeah.
Well, we got to gamble.
Yeah, well, you're going to get a cellmate. You're going to get a life partner in prison, though, anyway. So it's like, why trade to that? That's my attitude.
Right. And you know what? He might not be as kind as she is.
Exactly.
You're really going to map these things out. All right. I think we drove this into the ground. Do we have another one, Robin?
Yeah. So we have the only international news for today. So according to the CEO of NVIDIA, NVIDIA is the big GPU company. So China is now recently bumping up their chip production because of national production limitations. Everything is kind of made in China. The only thing that isn't made in China is chips. And those are, it's not like the American Snap chips, but like the chips that control your refrigerators, laptops, computers, anything that has like smart AI built into the electronics. Most of them come from Taiwan and the US.
Where they usually come from the US?
Yeah.
Then why are we shipping them? What's going on?
No. So China really has to catch up because they want to build a lot more local brands with the chips. And they can't do that because it's currently monopolized by Taiwan and US, which is also why they're looking to invade Taiwan in the next couple of years. It's pending. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but like it's a big reason why.
Well, it sounds like we need to beat them to the punch and invade Taiwan for starters.
I'd be amazed that they don't have it, that China doesn't have the chip manufacturing. Like, like with all the U.S. country, with all the corporate espionage, the fact that I can buy gadgets from China, U.S. gadgets in China and all that, I'd be surprised that they can't make chips right now. I understand Taiwan is probably the biggest creator, and Joe Biden put the CHIP Act in place so we can start doing chips. So I don't know, we haven't done anything with it yet, but that's kind of, I'm a little surprised to say like.
Well, hold on, let me ask you a question. Were we not allowed to make chips? I'm so confused. I'm just like,
it's not cost effective.
Okay.
I gotta tell you, this article made me feel really dumb because I didn't understand anything in it. I can't anyone make chips? Robin, can I?
To be fair, the Taiwan invasion wasn't part of the article. That was just my.
That was your political commentary. Thank you.
Yeah,
no, I wanted that. Thank you for that.
I just feel like Elon could figure out a way to make chips. I feel like I feel like he could do it. He could tackle it. Yeah.
Isn't he putting chips in our brain? Didn't we just cover that last week?
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, just add a couple more to the.
Right. Just a couple more to the purchase.
Keep at it. I think China is. I think China probably. I can't imagine China's not making chips, but maybe they're too busy hacking. I mean, it's hard to know. It's hard to know.
It's very confusing. So if they start making chips, we're in trouble. They're gonna have a lot of money. Yes. You seem closer to this than us.
Yeah, tell us what's going on, Robin. We need your on the ground correspondence.
We're still planning our weddings
and murders.
I think so. So like a lot of these chips are going to go into mobile phones and laptops, and the big thing with that is I don't know like what information and data they can get off of doing that. I'm not sure.
Well, it's crazy what the chips like. So what's crazy, I think nowadays is what goes in there. So like we had a small fire in my dryer because like the thing stopped tumbling. Right. So you had the heating coil just heating and then, smoke coming out and the alarm went off. I went downstairs. I'm like, holy crap, what's going on? Immediately my guitars, but no. Turns out the dryer, like, okay. But, after everything's said and done, right. So it's like Whirlpool, it was like a Maytag and like Whirlpool says, okay, we'll give you blah, 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 X amount discount, everything. Everyone that we kind of said, hey, can we get this one? Can we get this one? There was like, no, that's delayed because of a chip shortage. And it seems like that's one of the reasons that we kind of say like chip shortage. I think with your used cars, right? Cars nowadays, it's not just simple cars anymore. It's like a whole damn computer in there with chips. So that's why I'm a little bit like, I'd be, a little surprised that China, doesn't have some level with all their people. Maybe they're just not sure because they're like the largest battery producer, right, for electric cars, I think now. Right. And they do the largest solar panels and, so all the American technology that goes with their companies in order to do fabrication, it's crazy, so.
They also, we know that they're very good at making balloons.
There you go. There you go. Have them for your next wedding.
Speaking of dumbing this conversation down, can we talk about why potato chips are so expensive? I bought a bag yesterday for $7.
God.
Lay's.
What kind were these? My goodness.
Just normal everyday Lay's original chips.
It's ridiculous.
Lay's originals. I actually bought some the other day, but I got 2 for $7, but they were like the Utz.
That's weird.
Yes.
No, it's crazy. And the one thing is, it's like the best thing about it, I gotta tell you, because I'll take the kids and all that, is Arizona iced tea. God bless that company.
99 cents.
The fact that they print the 99 cents on the can, so these manufacturer retailers can't like jack it up, right? It's like as much as like I was a kid. I remember it's like I think it was like always 99 cents. It's like holy cow.
Yeah, it is. Always was. I remember getting it. Oddly enough, I remember buying those as a kid. Well, I mean, maybe I was a kid. I could drive, right? Yeah. And driving to the store and getting them, right? Or walking or biking or whatever. And you know what, oddly enough, is the same thing with the Costco hot dogs. Not to get off topic here, but they're the same. Look, they're like $1.50. They've been $1.50 since I remember as a child going to Costco or Sam's Club or whatever it was called.
And I don't think they're losing money on these, right?
No.
They're making money.
Well, they actually bought it. Actually, I was reading an article. They actually built. The guy that owned it was like, if you raise the price, I'll kill you. He said that to the CEO, like jokingly, obviously. Yeah. And they ended up buying or building a hot dog processing facility, believe it or not, to bring the cost down because they make so many. So they make their own hot dogs.
Yeah.
I had a guy on last week who included Funyuns in his death row meal, and he was bitching about the cost of Funyuns. And I noticed they're also $7. Like, what is this? That's a product that has no credibility.
All these chips made in the States. Why are they so expensive? They're made there, right?
Yes. No,
I think it's because the chemicals that they put in them are not made here. I think but who knows? Could be
made in China.
Yeah, there's a tariff on it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
saying $7 per bag.
Mm-hmm.
$7 per chip. Sorry, it's not Venezuela. Yes, it's $7 a bag.
Double the price here, and we're paying like import.
And both of these guys will agree to this, right? You got to say at least 25 to 30% of the bag is air.
That's the other thing.
That's solid air, right? So
you're looking at 20 cents a chip. I think if you do the math,
that's right.
That's awful expensive.
So when someone's like, "I need a chip," you're like, "And alone."
Yeah.
So
Terrence, Robin has told us that if you get in trouble with the police in the Philippines for $10, you can get out of it. So for a bag of chips,
there we go.
I got 2 bags of Funyuns here. I'll take $4 back. Right? 2
Funyuns is a double murder. Two wives.
It's like if I travel to the Philippines, I have a suitcase of potato chips, right?
Yeah, black market potato chips.
He goes into the bank and he pulls the safety deposit box and it's just bags of chips. These are the Doritos. Wait till they see
Spicy hot. Who wants? Yeah.
Well,
they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I got a trial in the morning."
It's also funny because like the average Filipino people are very traditional with like being favor oriented. So like it's kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So if you do like one very small gesture to just be like nice to someone who doesn't have a lot of money, they will feel like they owe you so much more. It's just like in the culture.
I'm in the wrong place.
Eric, are you looking up our flights?
I am. I'm getting a crate of Flamin' Hot Cheetos is going to buy us half the country.
Yeah, that's funny. I always want to go to other countries and figure out what isn't there, and then come back in and be like, you know what? Like, for example, we were away and recently, and we were in Barcelona, and I asked the guy, I said, how does Uber work here? He's like, what? There's another app, but I was thinking, what if I came to Barcelona and created Uber? They'd be like, he's a savant.
Yeah. I think you can do it. Which begs the question: why isn't Uber over there? They already have the, you know what I mean?
They wouldn't buy some license. So anyway, but to find out, they do have an Uber. It's just not called Uber. They were like, and I was like, I'm gonna. So I said,
Ubedo.
I've got a name for a company. It's called Uber, and it's an on-demand cab service.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Oh, we have that. It's just not called Uber." God. All right, we're not moving.
All right.
And then, so there was one more story. Sorry, I just wanted to touch on. Are you going to say something about it?
Yeah.
Really quickly, I just want to touch on it. Is that Elizabeth Holmes is actually showing up for prison today? So congratulations to Elizabeth Holmes. You may remember she was some Theranos, I guess, head bullshitter. I don't know what you would call her. And made the tool that didn't work to draw blood. Yeah.
It fascinates me when rich people go to prison for long times, because what a fall from grace. Oh my God, she was a billionaire on paper, and now she's going to prison for 11
You know how weird
years.
she was? She had that weird voice, right? I was on a stream or something one time, and she was lecturing. I don't know what she was doing.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it was like, what's going on? She had on like the black turtleneck, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Steve Jobs wannabe.
Yeah, it was crazy. I know we don't have much time to talk about. I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I think so she raised $945 million and ran like 6 tests beforehand. Like, is it that easy to raise money?
Well, and actually, we're going to talk about it for a second. Here's the other thing that blew me away, right? Is that the people that she conned out of money, these were like Henry Kissinger was on her board. I'm not saying he's good or bad. I'm just saying, like, right. I mean, it's not like you're talking Dave who just won the lottery out of $1 million. You know what I mean? These are like pretty savvy people. In addition to that, what blew me away, right, was that they were like, yeah, she dropped out of Stanford at 19. Granted, I can't even imagine how hard it is to get to Stanford. But, right, I remember, and Terrence knows this is true, when I was starting Dinsmore Steel, I remember people were like, are you qualified to start? I'm like, what are you talking about? I worked at the PEO. I haven't, all of these other things. She didn't even have, like, imagine I was like, I'm going to tackle drawing blood. Do you have a medical degree? Absolutely not. I dropped out of school at 19.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's literally, like, it's insanity. You know what I mean?
They were like, well, have you tested the thing? Yeah, a couple times, 6-7 times. Can I have 945 million? They're like, yeah.
Well, I was, my wife was getting her car fixed, and so they have like the magazines from like a year ago or 2 years ago still, like they don't change around. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because there was a Fortune magazine. I want to say it's like 2020 or 2021, right? August. And it was Bankman-Fried?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like full face on the cover. Is he the next genius? And blah, blah, blah. And it's just amazing. Along with him, Elizabeth Holmes, it's like the stuff.
The WeWork guy. I know, it's the fucking.
All these people just automatically like, oh, here's my money. I don't need to see a like he apparently was like aloof in his meetings with the VCs and everything. Like, oh, he's a genius.
Right.
It's like that's what I got to start doing now. Just like
what I've learned.
What's he gonna say?
No, I was going to say, you know what I've learned from the show Succession? Does anyone watch that show?
No.
I'm
all right. Well, if you do watch that show, is that I think when you realize how inept the people at the top are, I mean, it really comes pretty straightforward.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, we've had more episodes of the Eric and Rodney show with Robin than she did tests on her blood drawing shit.
That's right. That's right. We'll literally test an email. How many times, Robin? Thousands of times just to see if it works. But she was like, you know what? Run it 6 times.
It didn't even work the 6 times. Like, she didn't have any successful trial, I don't think.
Yeah.
The people that are on that board, though, is crazy.
So I have
the best of the best.
I have a bit of a question. Rodney, you told me something before that kind of stuck with me. You told me rich people in the U.S. never go to jail. So
that's right.
What's the exception here? What happened?
Well, you know why? Because she cost richer people money.
That's right.
That's the case.
There is an exception. That is true. See, so here's the thing. Now, exactly, Eric covered it, but I mean, just expand upon it. If she had been even richer than they were, never go to jail.
Right.
Like I'll give you an example. Jeffrey Epstein went to jail because the people that are richer than him.
Yeah.
Right. See what I mean? That's what it is.
It's all dependent.
That's right.
Like, if OJ had murdered somebody more famous than him, he would have been in trouble. But he was smart and murdered somebody less famous than him.
Another case in point, right? Sam Bankman-Fried gave so much money to the political parties that he's sitting at home planning his next con while everyone else is in jail.
Yeah.
That would never happen. If you could con that many people out of that much money, they would burn your house down and kill you. If I did that, it would do that. I wouldn't be here.
Well, it's like Madoff.
And with him, he's at home resting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Are there crimes you could commit in the U.S. that can't be bailed? probably like murder and stuff. Like you can't pay your
Again,
way.
Robin, are you listening?
You can.
I mean, I haven't tried any, but yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, anything's possible.
Okay.
Who is the most famous person that's been jailed? Does anybody know?
Frank Sinatra was jailed, right?
Was
For
it?
like drunk driving, or I know Billy Joel got in trouble a couple times on Long Island, but
Martha Stewart. I think when Martha
Oh,
Stewart went to
Martha
jail,
Stewart,
people were
the
like,
most
"Oh my
famous.
gosh, yeah."
Robert Downey Jr. probably.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. He lived there, so it wasn't. Come on,
But he wasn't Iron Man yet. I mean, he was famous,
Yeah,
but he wasn't
he was
like.
famous.
He was a
less than zero.
turnaround story, though. Yeah,
Yeah, he was less than zero, but he wasn't Iron Man. That's right.
yeah.
So really, there's no war criminals. Every president, you know.
Actually, OJ went to prison. He was pretty famous, right? But it wasn't
It might have been
for.
it.
Yeah, it was for beating up somebody or something.
Stealing back the memorabilia that was his or something like that.
Yeah, murder's fine, but you don't steal
Martha,
baseball
yeah.
cards.
Here's the
Right.
problem,
That's right.
though, Robin, in the U.S. is that we have the worst attention spans.
True.
Right. So a lot of times with these stories, right,
Mhm.
in news, unless it's popular and sensationalized, no one keeps track of it. Right. So, you're waiting for your trial date. Here in the U.S., you can kill someone, do a crime and everything. I'm going to say it's going to take you a year or two before you even get to a courtroom. Right. In that time frame, everyone's forgotten.
Right.
So if they want to get you out, if you know the right people and you want to get out, yeah, my opinion is they're going to get you out.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be forgotten.
That's why we have to do this show every single day. We don't
Yeah.
want to, but unless
No, we're forced to do this.
Presence.
Don't they like detain you in some kind of other institution before your trial? That's
Well,
not-
yeah, but I mean, again, if you look at it, so like where Holmes is going is probably like the most easygoing
it's-
prisons in the world. It's a country club,
It's a country club.
a lot of times. So it's some of these
Bill
places-
Cosby. That's right.
Robert
There you
Trump,
go.
yes, he's correct. I think we jailed America's dad.
Well, he's
But-
out now, but he's out, right?
Yeah, but he had to do a
Yeah.
lot of crimes. He committed crimes for like 30 years, and like the worst crimes. Anyway, like finally, okay, there's a couple months in prison.
Yeah, it's
That's it, though. Bill Cosby. That's true.
Yeah, it wasn't-
Can we talk about the Celtics? Does anybody care? Because I'm a
well, they
Celtics.
lost, right?
Oh, not only did they lose, they got fucking destroyed. Nobody cares
was the
about
score?
Robin. You a big basketball fan?
no, not really.
Although basketball's huge.
You know why? Yeah, you know why? The average heighter is 5'2", so we're not really good. At
You're a
basketball.
very tiny people. I just
They
tell you.
lower the baskets.
Yeah, it's a 7 foot.
Lower
it's
the
a 7 foot-
baskets.
Yeah,
Make the ball smaller. Like
There you go.
children. All right. Well, nobody cares, but it was very, very painful. And
I never really get too upset when Boston loses anything, to be honest. So I do feel your pain because the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks. It's scary stuff with the Knicks.
we've only won one championship since 1986, but the Knicks have managed to win 0, I think, in that span.
That's right. Yeah, we really,
Yeah.
we really have just.
Wait, is the biggest sport in America still basketball or is it football?
Football.
Football.
It's football.
Football. Okay.
By miles and miles.
Would you say,
and
or
miles.
would you say maybe baseball? Isn't it like tagged like the America sport?
Baseball. Well, baseball's pretty big. What I would say though is this is the
I'm
reason I
wearing a
think.
Whoa, yo, you can't wear that.
You can't wear that anymore.
Oh, I can't?
No, they
Oh,
have a
no,
different
they
name
changed their
now.
name.
Okay, so
They
this
keep
is
their
probably
name.
expensive.
That's vintage, man. You gotta
So
hang
So it
that
just
shit
got
up.
canceled.
Yeah, we literally just got canceled.
Not only do you have the dictator after you, but now you're pissing people off in the United States.
Yeah. Before you
Right.
cancel me, number one.
Now make the sound.
Oh my God.
It's my father's shirt. So
You're wearing your father's shirt. How long is that excuse going to work? Now you know Robin the other day had his shirt inside out, and the day before that he had on like some kind of furry costume. I don't know what was going on.
Right. You're a fashionista.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a fashion show.
explain to me why it's canceled. Because Indians.
Whoa. Yes.
Now he has said the word. Get out.
Oh, I did not know
Get
that
out
was
of
a
the show.
No,
show.
it's the Cleveland
Oh my
Native Americans. No.
Yeah, like it used to be the Washington Redskins. Now they're Washington Commanders, right?
Yeah, but they lost. They just lost the appeal to that name, or whatever. So they have to change their name again.
Well, what's wrong with the Commanders?
There was a trademark on it.
Oh.
But
Okay.
yes, the Indians are now the Guardians because you can't
That's
say
right.
them. Which I'm not. I don't have an opinion on. I don't want to get canceled. I'm not like Robin. I'm not.
Yeah,
I was
we're
scared
not
of
like
1986.
Robin.
So I'm wearing an illegal T-shirt.
That's right. Straight to jail here is what would happen to you. Straight to jail.
That's
Don't pack it when you come visit us.
Yeah. Burn it.
Mm-hmm.
which is funny. Yeah.
All right, before we get into the Terrence segment where we interview him, do you want to do the famous look at this shitty outreach?
I do.
Okay,
Terrence, this is a new segment we have here, Terrence, where we look at an email that is absolutely horrendous. Now, here's the beauty of it: we're going to rewrite the email in our spare time, which is not a lot, and we're going to send it back to these people. So yeah, that's what's happening now, in case you were wondering.
Okay.
So Rodney got this. So the thing you want to do right off the bat is misspell the person's first name.
That's right, Rodney.
Yeah, so greetings, Rodnat. And then Robin, you want to take it from here? Can you read this for the class?
Sure. Greetings, Rodney. I'm an expert freelancer at Upwork, having more than 6 years in lead generation, B2B lead gen, data mining, lead gen, list building, data scraping, internet research, yada, yada. Please.
This guy's a lot of
your requirement. I have Premium Account and Sales Navigator, Hunter, Snovio. I'm using different tools to get leads like CEO, COO, yada, yada. If you have any projects regarding my experience, please let me know. We can discuss them. I will provide you with the best rate and quality work in town. I look forward to connecting and working with you.
So
what town, though, is that?
What's that?
What town? I'm just curious. What town is that? New York City, or where? What town? Downtown, uptown, out of town,
right? In town,
Koreatown. Where are we doing this at? Right.
That's good. He obviously has a lot of experience, which is nice. But I think maybe this could be cut down.
Yeah, I think it could be cut down. I also think, just brainstorming here, lose the greetings and either just go with hi there, hello there, or use their name. Oddly enough. Yeah, oddly enough.
I just think the Rodney Rodnad thing is just the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is good. That was better than the one we had last week, right? Which was horrendous.
Yeah. But how do you fuck that up if it's a greetings first name, which you assume it is? Like, do you have Rodnad out there somewhere?
No, I gotta be honest. I've been called a lot of things. It's never been one of them. Oddly enough, this guy's got maybe he is experimenting with different pronouncing. I don't know.
We're gonna rewrite that. All right. So this is the Terrence portion of the show where we interview.
Now it's the Terrence show.
Now it's the Terrence show.
Help us.
Before we get into business, it looks like you played some guitar. Can you give me who are the top 5 greatest guitarists of all time? You must have an opinion on this.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much a standard. So I'm gonna say Eddie Van Halen, David Gilmour, Jimmy Page, Clapton, and I'm gonna go with probably Steve Vai. Although I don't but I always go to that Crossroads with Ralph Macchio and watch that guitar competition between the two. It's I love it. Or when he used to play with when Van Halen David Lee Roth came out with his own album right after he was out of Van Halen.
Just the Gigolo was on that album.
Yeah, I think so. But it's I remember what was it, Yankee Rose? Right? Yankee Rose. And Steve Vai was making that guitar talk. What?
That's right. Yeah.
And it's just that was just so cool.
What does Ralph Macchio have to do? Karate Kid? What was he doing?
Karate Kid. He was in the
movie.
movie.
He plays the guitar?
Crossroads. Yeah. It's the cheesiest movie. It's the classical guitarist, and you need a soul that play classical guitar. Yeah. And he wants to find the crossroads where Robert
was
Johnson
Britney Spears in that? That wasn't
right? That was a crossroads.
That's a different crossroads.
That's a different crossroads, but
that was the second best crossroads.
Yeah. I'm thinking what was going on in that one? All right. Gotcha.
Eric Clapton's come up a lot in my life because last week on the show, he shreds on Phil Collins' "Wish It Would Rain Now," which is I think an underrated Eric Clapton moment.
Yeah, I've never. Yeah, it's Clapton. So I'm not the biggest Clapton fan. So it's but it's just one of those things. In terms of the guy's capability of putting. Playing guitar, another guy I've gotten into, which I've never knew before, probably in the past 5-6 years, but I've gotten into, started getting into the blues more. There's a guy named Joe Bonamassa.
I love Joe Bonamassa.
And the guy is just phenomenal, in terms of the things. And he's like, and people are like, wait, how'd you do it? And goes, let me do it slowly. It's that's not slow, right? It's just amazing. And, The other night, also really fun, right? So he's a big collector in guitars. That's why I point to and say, "Hey, see, honey, it's justified." No, and the other night I got to see Cheap Trick.
Oh,
right?
shit.
They were in like a little rinky dink, not that far from me in Morristown, New Jersey, little place. Right. I was like third row. Rick Nielsen, who's like 74, 75 years old. The guitars, he's like, but it's just like seeing these guys rock. You know, and that's what I love about just these guitar players. And you don't hear it that much in music anymore.
I was going to say rock and roll's dead. There's some of the things I don't understand that we did away with in life, and like guitar-driven rock and roll is one of those things that doesn't exist anymore. There's no solos, but like, why is that gone? Didn't we all like that? Wasn't that fucking?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we did like it.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite solo or riff?
I'm gonna say Brian May. Anything from Queen and Brian May, like Bohemian Rhapsody or things like that nature. Right? He's just like what he's done with guitars and playing. It's just, you know, and then also, you know, like David Gilmour, Comfortably Numb, right? So I was watching something like about Comfortably Numb, and you couldn't do Comfortably Numb, I don't think, today on the radio, right? It's got like two guitar solos. It's long, right? It's there, but you listen to that and it just transports you.
You can make two songs out of it.
Yeah, but it just transports you, right, with the music. And just like there's nothing better than driving with the windows open if you have a convertible at the top down and cranking tunes, you know, and just letting it go on the open road and just enjoying that, right? There's
that's some American shit right there, but I agree.
Yeah. Just,
I figured as much.
Serious talking.
Yeah, she does that to me all the time too.
Randomly.
Robin,
When Bohemian Rhapsody came out, it was probably like the longest song ever on radio at that time, right?
Yeah, it actually got a lot of pushback in order to be able to release, right? You look at that stuff and it's just crazy. Like another artist I enjoyed the hell out of was Meatloaf, right? So Meatloaf, you look at the first album, Bat Out of Hell, and you know Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, and tell me any teenage American boy who doesn't know about having Paradise by Dashboard Lights. But,
by the way, that's a great song. I like that song.
It's phenomenal, right?
Yeah, it's a great song.
And the words and the lyrics, and it's one of those. There are like a handful of albums I think that you can just listen to straight, right? You listen to like Meatloaf, start to finish, Boston's first album, right? Listen to Boston's first album. Tom Schultz is probably like the most underrated guitarist, right? What he did in Boston. But you listen to that first album of Boston, you'll be blown away with the tunes on it. I feel like that's like my job as a parent is you got to listen to the good music, right? You know, like the stuff that you're putting on nowadays, which is a blip in the amount of, like, I think I saw something one time is, Objects in the Rearview Mirror.
Yeah, I think that's on Bat Out of Hell too, isn't it? This is the Meatloaf hour.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, it's just
wild. The Meatloaf.
It's just wild, some of the music. And that's the thing. It's like they did like Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like the amount of words on Bohemian Rhapsody versus today's pop music.
I agree.
Right? Work. You know, it's like that's it. Boom. Now you're a billionaire.
Yeah.
We really got a guest on to sing Rihanna. I love it.
That should be a bit we do every episode. Somebody has to sing a little Rihanna for us.
That's right.
Now, I asked you 5, and that's very limiting, but can I ask you a very obvious omission on your top 5?
Sure.
Jimi Hendrix usually lives on these.
So I'm not a big Jimi Hendrix fan.
Whoa.
Right? Now,
that's more controversial than Robin wearing that racist
I know,
shirt.
but here's why I'm not, right? So I think Jimi Hendrix, I've heard stories. So obviously I didn't grow up listening, you know, like Jimi Hendrix died, you know? So I'm not that
24, old. Right? Is it 24, 27, right?
Yeah, right? It's like all of them did. Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, all of them around the same age. Yeah. But I think what Jimi Hendrix did is kind of like, that's where like Eddie Van Halen is for me. Right, because I think what Jimi Hendrix did is like he showed people what could be done on a guitar. Right, there is stuff now that did Eddie Van Halen invent tapping? A lot of people will tell you no. Right, he'll even say it. But where he took it to, I don't think anyone can tap nowadays without them saying, "Well, that's Eddie Van Halen," right? Or the harmonics and everything. So, like, I think Jimi Hendrix. The coolest story I ever heard about Jimi Hendrix was I think he was like, was it Sgt. Pepper's came out? Right, from the Beatles. And it seems like everyone wants to play guitars because they saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. You know, it's wild seeing all these stories. But apparently he played it, Sgt. Pepper's, that night when it first came out with one of the Beatles in the audience. I think it was like Paul McCartney, and Eric Clapton in the audience, and like blew people's mind with this, what he could do with the guitar.
Yeah.
Right? I just, like, again, I never really watched a lot of Jimi Hendrix, so I wasn't a lot exposed to it and listened to it as a household. And then when I finally got to know Jimi Hendrix, it's like, well, I already saw all these guys. They were kind of doing what he was doing. That's
he was old news.
Yeah.
I think it's set and setting, just like drugs. Like, you can have an awful mushroom experience due to set and setting, or you can have a great. And Bourdain recently said something. I saw some clip on Instagram. They fed it to me, but like how wild it must have been for the guys playing guitar in England when Jimi Hendrix went over and started playing his shit. Like, we won't get it because we weren't there. It's set and setting, but I think to a man, they will all go like, "Holy shit!" That was like, it was before and after we'd seen him.
Yeah, like, and it's like really fun, like for Jimi Hendrix stories. So like Billy Gibbons says ZZ Top. Yeah. So again, ZZ Top, like one of my favorite songs is LaGrange, right, by ZZ Top, right? And he toured with Jimi Hendrix, right? Before Jimi Hendrix was Jimi Hendrix, right? And the stories that he tells you about like him on the road and everything, it's just, that's the great thing about some of these musicians. It's just like they just transport you somewhere, right? A lot of, it's something I think it's kind of lost nowadays with the artists today. So
I miss the rock and roll too. Not that I'm a huge, well, actually that's not true. I am a huge Motley Crue fan, but like the thing with him and I think it was Nikki Sixx and Ozzy, they were blowing lines of ants and then blue lines of urine. Like, they were having a gross off to see who could put the weirdest shit up their nose. Something tells me like bands today aren't doing that. I don't think Rihanna's blowing lines.
No, but did you see that? Did you see? Was it The Dirt? I think on Netflix.
Dirt, yeah, I read the book too.
Oh my god, that was like I can't wait for my kids to be a little bit older. I like every once in a while I'm thinking, okay, let me show my least the twins who are 17 this, and I'm like, yeah, do I really want to show them having sex in the back room? Like, oh,
Motley Crue.
Don't bring your girlfriend. It wasn't Pete Davidson. Don't bring your girlfriend to a Motley Crue show because they will fuck your girlfriend or something.
Exactly. So this is anecdotal, but in The Dirt. So at the time, Tommy Lee was with Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
So The Dirt is written from all four of their perspectives, and then they shoved the book together. Yeah. So that's how we learned that the rest of the bandmates had slept with Pamela Anderson. He had no idea until he read the book. It was like, everyone slept with my girlfriend.
Oh man.
Yikes.
That's how cool Motley Crue is.
No, that was a band. It's funny because when I was growing up, it really was like Motley Crue, like, wasn't as accepted today. So it's like, was that song 1985 where it's like, these are like the classic hits, like the fact that like Motley Crue's oldies now. I know. And it's like, I remember kids walking around with like Motley Crue shirts and people are like, oh man, you're a bad guy, or, like you're smoking, and, whatever was associated. People couldn't handle like the metal or whatever. Like
their first hit was Shout at the Devil. And they were all dressed up in S&M gear and were wearing women's makeup. And we were like, this is incredible. I like that band's worship scene.
But it was accepted because they were shouting
at the devil.
Yes.
There was a
shouting with the devil.
Right.
But what's really cool also, just a side note, because like when you say the devil, it's like Kiss, right? So I'm not the biggest Kiss fans, right? But it's like they were like Knights in Satan's service, right? But the number of bands, I saw an interview like with Gene Simmons, and they were saying like the bands that opened for Kiss, like Rush, and like it's just phenomenal, the people that got their start by being with Kiss, like on tour with them. So look, nowadays the amount of music it's just a lot of it's garbage on the radio. It's maybe a handful of songs I like, but I'm an 80s kid.
Yeah, it's the same forward progression. It's quite sad.
Yeah,
that's why, like Greta Van Fleet. You like Greta Van Fleet?
Yeah,
I know they do an impression of Led Zeppelin, but I fucking love Led Zeppelin. So I think more bands. Somebody should do an impression of Motley Crue.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's Motley Crue is, again, it's one of those groups that they were doing a tour, right, with Def Leppard. I was trying to get tickets for that tour, and that was
I think so. I think they were.
I will say though, as much as I love them, they're also the worst concert I've ever been to. Vince Neil,
really?
He's terrible.
Vince Neil, I saw him like he was like 50 pounds overweight. They're trying to get him back to singing and everything. It's like
I saw him when he was 150 pounds overweight.
Dude, it's done.
Remember lyrics? He's just mumbling.
It's done.
So we have 5 minutes left. Do you want to cover some business talk, or do you want to just keep talking about guitars? Either way,
talk whatever you guys want. Business talk.
Rodney, what do you want to do? This was great.
Yeah, listen. I mean, I talk about this stuff all the time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, no. So let me tell you. So what's funny is
He doesn't.
No, because
I'm
look,
joking.
here's the thing, right? So it's funny how I got into this industry, right? Because I wanted to be in film, like I wanted to be around film, and so I went to college, and they didn't have a film degree there, like So it's like, okay, you worked on film sets, and then I was an editor for about 10 years. So if you actually go onto IMDb, I used to be a documentary film and TV editor for like 10 years. I know this is like the weird thing. So it was truly, like I used to love editing, right? So I was the guy that I would be able to see like the scratches in the films, like when they actually showed film, I see the scratches. So if I didn't see a movie in the first release of the week, I couldn't go because it would annoy me, all the scratches and everything. But I was a film and TV editor. I did music videos, did documentary films. So in that sense, like for geographics, I used to do Shark Week. Right?
What?
Yeah. So
This is
so
fucking crazy. Why did we say this? We buried the lead.
No.
Yeah. Well, listen, PO is powerful.
Well, so PO is where it's at. No, so I did that for like 9-10 years, right? 9 to 10 years. And then the industry went to crap because it became reality TV, right?
Right.
And no one had to edit anymore. And, I married New Jersey. I'm from New York. I married New Jersey, right? And there was like Jersey Shore and my daughters. When my wife was pregnant with my daughters, the twins, girls, I drove through Lincoln Tunnel for them to be born in New York to have a New York birth certificate because I didn't want a Jersey girl moniker, But yeah, it's like so PEO became out of like someone said, hey, get into payroll and all that kind of stuff, right? I think PEO is probably the worst name for an industry.
It's pretty
right. I think it's like professional employer organization. My wife still doesn't know what I do, right? And I've been doing this for like close to 15 years. But that's how I met Rodney, right? In terms of a business owner, look, the pitch is you don't want to be doing this stuff your own, right? It's the same, why do it? The nice thing about the industry and such is, look, I'm impressed by business owners. And that's the thing I love about my job nowadays. I get to talk to about 3 or 4 business owners every week. And hearing people, you want to make money. Yeah. But a lot of these people I'm talking to, it's like they saw a problem. They wanted independence. They hated their boss. Right. They were getting married and they're starting out, no one would give them a job. Right? That's the thing I love about my job is talking to those people. Yeah,
I agree with you on that. Like, what I always like. I don't interrupt you, but I agree with you. Because I've said that before too. I completely agree with you. I'm always fascinated at what these people do and how they do it and how they make money.
Yeah.
And how it came about and stuff. That fascinates me too. I agree.
Yeah, it's like the best thing about being a business owner. And like when you talk to, like even you guys, like with what you're doing in the shows, right? It's like everyone has the ability to do a lot of the stuff that's out there. Right. It's just the complainers and the haters are the ones that just sit on their ass and not do anything. Right.
That's right.
Like you guys are out there doing your show, making a difference. Right. Like, Rodney was talking to me about podcasts. And it's like I used to listen to like all this podcast noise and everything. Now I probably just watch one. No Agenda show. I don't know if you guys watch it. They deconstructed media. Great show. Right. But like it was a former VJ, Adam Curry is one of the hosts. Right. But that's what I love about it. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. Some part of me looks back and regrets to say, hey, I wish I could have been that. Hey, I wish I could have been Eddie Van Halen. Right. But did, something prevented me from really going after that.
Well, you had 5 kids.
Well, that's my excuse now. Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's great being around business owners. It's great being around you guys because, again, it's like, wow, here we came up with an idea and let's do this.
Yeah. That was a great answer. If nobody else has any questions, I just have one last one. What documentaries did you work on? Because I'm a huge documentary slut.
So one of my favorite documentaries was about the Indianapolis, right? If you don't know the story, it's a phenomenal tale.
Is that where the sharks were eating them?
Yeah. So the Indianapolis,
that's a great story.
The Indianapolis was Jason Robards. I got to meet him because he was the narrator for it, right? The Indianapolis is the ship that took the atomic bomb to be delivered, right? That got dropped in Hiroshima, right?
Okay.
And what happened was when the ship came back, a Japanese sub sank it. But the U.S. government lost track that there was a ship out there. So these guys were out in the ocean, in the waters, for several days, being eaten by sharks, right? And they started going delusional. They started going delusional because they would be like, oh, I'm thirsty, I gotta get some water, and the water was always kept below deck, right? And they would go down under the water and drink the salt water. And you drink too much salt water, you'll die. So these guys were like lost, right, for so long. When they were eventually found and they were pulling them in the boat, their skin was peeling off their body, right? It's a phenomenal story. And it's kind of tragic what the U.S. did, because after that, they brought the commander. They tried to blame everything on the captain, the U.S. captain, and they brought the commander of the sub, the Japanese sub, to testify against the U.S. commander that he did something wrong. It's like 30 years later, he was exonerated, right? He was forgiven, but he was found guilty at first. But
it's a great documentary. But just imagine surviving a Japanese ship assault and then getting eaten by sharks.
And everything. It's tragic, but it's an incredible story. If you ever get a chance to read about the Indianapolis, it's like
imagine
history.
From a shark's perspective, though. They're telling all their friends, like, listen, you're never going to believe this. There's a whole bunch of food.
Get over there. Come over.
Anyway. You were Terrence. You're a hit. The audience,
Terrence, I love you.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a really fun time.
This was very good. We got to get into. Oh, here's one last thing. Yeah. When we finish this, Robin goes and edits it into a highlight. So I want your critiques on his editing, since you're a professional.
Okay, yeah.
You want me to include the Rihanna bit? I'm kidding. I'll be there.
No, you got to keep that in. All right, fellas, this was fun. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Be well, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.